Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we finally have the time to explain podcast. I'll be going through about 6 pages worth of analysis here, going through all the important stuff and breaking it down for you guys. There's a bunch of update sneak peek information as well, like a new prestige system, which could be basically the replacement of records or just an extension, a bit more hype like masteries. We're going through like claw machine improvements, PowerPoint and coin buffs, ranked potentially being the next update as well. There's a lot of information, but first I've got a score to settle with Danny.
On Twitter, Spen, like a content creator, I always like say that he was like the world champion in 2019. I keep referring that because the further away from his title, the worse the title gets, like, because it's people saying like, it's just
I don't know. What?
No, but I want to change. Now he's a awesome content creator with like very valid points about competitive pro gaming. Sorry.
Okay, Danny, I see how it is. When I was watching this, I was like, oh, Danny, that is... I'm going to have words. I'm going to have to 1v1 in Piper. Come on, let's settle it, Danny. Let's settle this beef. I would have kidded. No, I love Danny. But we're going to be going through my questions first and foremost, and then go through basically all of the sneak peeks, and then I'll deep dive into the questions which I think you guys care about the most. So the first question which I asked Brawl Stars, asked this over on Twitter, was with the introduction of Buffies, I think that Brawlers without Buffies are going to get power crept essentially. They're going to be receiving 5 changes to their kit every single time a new Brawler gets a Buffy, right? Because think about it, 2 new star powers that are going to get added a Buffy onto. 2 gadgets and a Hypercharge, plus maybe even some Brawler reworks. Actually, they could get more than 5 changes to the kit. So that is definitely the Brawlers without Buffies are going to get power crept. So the definition of power crept, like new features, they're going to be just way more powerful than the old existing features. So for example, think of Shelly as a prime example. She's a starter Brawler. She's going to get power crept by these new amazing Brawlers like Kaze with invisibility, you get what I mean. Anyway, so you can see here on the screen, there's going to be a lot of graphs in this, by the way. I think that was like 15 graphs in total. So you can see the win rate delta here from Adrian. So he explains here, you can see in the first one with the gadget, that you can see the win rates of a Brawler without their gadget Buffy and with their gadget Buffy. So I'll be diving into why I think some of this is good and some of it is bad. But essentially you can see here, it's quite interesting. Pretty much every Brawler, of course, is going to get a high win rate when they're with and without their Buffy. Ems being one of the primary, well, probably the worst one out of these. Like, literally with both gadgets, 64% win rate, basically. This was before the nerfs as well, by the way. They recorded this some weeks ago. Also, Spike with Life Plan is pretty alarming. Those are the only truly alarming ones in terms of pure win rate. But again, some of these... I'm a little bit on the fence about, because some of these Brawler Buffies might not be the absolute reason why these gadgets are so strong, and that's hence why, for example, literally look at Friend Zoner with Ems. I think her Brawler Buffy is good, the additional stun, but most of the time I don't even really use the additional stun. It's just a pure rework of the gadget, making it so strong. So that's one thing that's kind of not encountered for within this type of data. You get what I mean? It's like these small little things here, but overall, so that's why she has a 57% win rate just with Friend Zone alone. That is an alarming win rate to me. Like he said in the podcast as well, 60% win rate is normally something very alarming. And yeah, both gadgets are 60% win rate. Spike is getting near that 60%. Mortis with combo spinner surely should have been above 60. I think Mortis normally, as a Brawler, he has one of the worst win rates in the game, but one of the highest use rates, because so many bad players play Mortis. So just Mortis having nearly a 60% win rate probably is alarming in itself. So now moving on to the star power deltas. So as you can see here as well, in terms of the data, most of it is expected. 5% increase in terms of win rate. Colt wasn't really the delta wasn't really too much better. You take a look at Frank, that was a little bit better. Take a look at Mortis, Cold Snake was pretty high. You take a look at, it's not really a lot. Spike Fertilize was quite a big increase, but only like a 5% increase at maximum. Most Brawlers outside of like Mortis and maybe Ems. But again, one thing that this data doesn't consider, by the way, after speaking to Ash as well, he raised a really good point, and which is a point which I think is probably the best way to explain some of this in terms of maybe some things that might be missing. So again, this is no like hate towards any of the dev team. Adrian does a fantastic job, and there's also someone else that helps him out with this as well. And there's even a group chat of players that help with balancing, etc. But one thing this data doesn't consider is the ban rate inside of ranked or pro play. And that is probably the most obvious way to tell that a brawler is good, right? So whenever I do monthly final breakdowns and then I do like meta breakdowns after monthly finals, a lot of the data I take a look straight away. I go through and I look at ban rates, because when you ban a brawler, that's clearly the best brawler inside of a game, or in a specific game mode or a specific map. And you think of some prime examples. Think of like Prime Charlie, for example. She was banned pretty much every single game, every single mode. That's quite clear that brawler is the best brawler inside of a game and quite broken. So one thing this data doesn't consider as well, which again I was a bit surprised about, because for me, again, like I'm really good friends with Adrian, so again, it's like no hate towards him, guys. I think he definitely gets overhated, but that's another point, by the way. But one thing it doesn't consider, so for example, for Ems, right? Ems isn't good on every single map, every single situation, right? And this happens with a lot of brawlers inside the meta, where, you know, I'm watching monthly finals and some people might be like, oh, well, why isn't this brawler just being picked no matter what? Or, oh, this brawler's win rates is really surprisingly low after watching a monthly final. There's a few I can think of in the past. Maybe this was like Charlie in the past or some other brawlers. So that's because, yes, the brawler is very, very good, but it's not invincible, you know? It's not Thanos. It's not Larry and Laurie level. Like, Larry and Laurie could win every single matchup no matter what. We won't really have that again inside of Brawl Stars, but still with Ems in the right matchup and the right map, which is a lot of those right now. Think of bushy maps on Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, Hot Zone. She'll have an alarming win rate, surely. I don't know the numbers. I haven't got them in front of me, but I'm playing up against it. I find she's literally unwinnable, even after the nerfs. But what players will do, and again, you watch my streams or you just play it yourself, there will be the odd time, right, where the enemy, for whatever reason, I'm in Legendary 3 Masters, and the enemy's drafting Ems on New Horizons or Ems on a really open map. And that is literally the biggest weakness to Ems. So just literally the play base, not really realizing the true strength, the true strengths and weaknesses of a brawler. Ems' clearest weakness is literally being outranged, or, you know, people might play Ems into a really bad matchup, again, like into several wall breaks, and that's just not that good. So in conclusion, like, data can just be a vague, like, well, not vague, you can definitely look into data and really draw some big conclusive points. Like, again, it's quite clear, right, that a lot of these brawler buffies are just much better than without. But the point I'm trying to make, without waffling too much, is that you got to take into consideration the ban rate, and that's why it's important as well. This is why I try and feedback as much feedback to Adrian and the team as possible, and I really try and help with balance changes. And I feel like my I don't want to toot my horn too much, but my influence and just things that I input into that chat does help a lot with balance changes, because some of it can get missed by purely looking at data. You know, I don't actually play scrims. You know, there's a lot of pro players in that chat as well, which will have a more of a say in terms of the data side of things. But you can quite clearly see with monthly final broadcasts, you can see these certain brawlers are just getting banned too much. Surely they need a little bit of a nerf in some way. Like, not every brawler is going to be good in every single game. You know, take, I was trying to think of like Poker, for example. It might be hard to tell whether he's a broken brawler because you can't just play him in every single situation, but if his win rate is too high in Hot Zone and Gem Grab and these small maps, he still probably needs a nerf, even though he's not playable everywhere. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm waffling. There's so many ways and so many different viewpoints you can take in terms of balancing, but I think the ban rate definitely needs a look at. So now moving on to the Hypercharge deltas as well, and this was actually an interesting one, and I think this actually shows which Hypercharge buffies are good or not. I think this actually makes really good viewing. So first one, Cult Hypercharge, doesn't really change too much, and again, that comes from my advice. Like, the Cult Hypercharge seems alright, but every single time you use it, I don't actually get that much value in terms of the Hypercharge buffy. It seems cool, but if anything, I don't know, sometimes I can actually miss more shots with it. So yeah, that Hypercharge buffy is not that good. Ems' Hypercharge buffy is pretty good. I think it's mainly because of the Hypercharge buffy duration boost by 2 seconds. So that allows you to cycle through 2 Ems supers instead of 1 if you have that Hypercharge buffy. So that's why it's got a 10% increase in my opinion. Frank's Hypercharge is very, very good, but yeah, I just think with or without the Hypercharge buffy, it's pretty similar as the data says. Mortis Hypercharge Buffy isn't actually that great, but again, the 2-second increase is making the win rate delta a lot more favorable for the Buffy. Shelly, again, Shelly's Hypercharge Buffy is just pretty terrible, lackluster. It feels nice and it's not too strong. So that's kind of like my perfect idea of a Hypercharge Buffy. I don't want it to be too toxic. And then my exact thing I wouldn't want a Hypercharge Buffy is Spike's Hypercharge Buffy. It's got a 7% extra win rate delta and nearly 8%. That just goes to, I've always said Spike's Hypercharge Buffy is broken. It's just not... It's not fair. It's got a 60% win rate. I mean, M's is 70%. That's just absolutely absurd. That's probably because you get a knockback with your Hypercharge as well. But Spike's is crazy as well. So yeah, this is actually some interesting data. So the last graph we're kind of showing this cool segment here is with the win rate usage rate from Master and Pro rank. So I've seen this graph a few times myself in previous metas. I really love it when Adrian shares these types of things because you get a really good understanding. So this is much better. Master and Pro ranks. If you was to really fine tune things in the meta, I'll definitely say like Masters 2 and above, because even below that, you guys might think that's a high rank, but if you're talking like really competitive players, you probably get the best data from, Masters 2, 3 and above, because when people reach Pro rank, they don't normally play too much of the game. So yeah, I'd say Masters 2 and above. But anyways, you can take a look at its data. You can, pause it, whatever, zoom in, and really see some things that are quite alarming in terms of this data and things that are pretty cool. Again, there's pretty much 100 brawlers on this list, which it's pretty hard to see every single brawler and where they actually lie because they're not completely marked. But Adrian did say himself, and it's quite clear, right? The brawlers that you're going to be looking at in terms of nerfing and buffing. So the brawlers that are kind of further in the top right, so they're getting played a lot and they have a high win rate, of course, they probably need looking at. So it's quite obvious, right? Spike, Shelly, this was before the nerfs, by the way. Frank, Mina, Ems, all of these brawlers are just too strong. Also Pierce as well, for example. So yeah, brawlers that are too versatile, getting played too much, definitely need a little bit of a look. And then brawlers are in the left bottom corner, they definitely need a little bit of a look. So you can literally see. So I'm quite happy. I didn't actually see this graph before I made my brawlers that fell off video, because these brawlers have fell off. You just look at the left bottom corner. You've got Ziggy down here, you've got Buster down here, we've got Poco down here, we've got El Primo, we've got Jae Young. This is before the balance changes. But a lot of these brawlers, I'm like, okay, these are just not really being used too much. So yeah, really interesting data here. Yeah, I'm really glad they shared this with us. Now going on to my second question. Yes, every question won't be as long as the first one, by the way. But I asked them, what was your reasoning behind the timing of the release of Buffies? I know deadlines are tight and they probably wanted to release Buffies before esports, which I was correct about, but over the winter period, lots of people were really frustrated with the imbalance of Buffies and lots of bugs. So this was very true for me, because as a streamer, as a competitive player, there was nearly no worse time really to play Brawl Stars than over the winter period. Luckily, I went and saw family, whatever else. I was a little bit more relaxed with things, because December in general, leading up to Christmas, is crazy in terms of content creating, in terms of basically any job you do or whatever area of work you are in. It is crazy because there's a lot of consumer spending. For me, there's lots of ad opportunities. Well, it wasn't as much as it, but you know what I mean. It's normally really chaotic. So the same would have been for Brawl Stars as well. But then afterwards, I kind of just felt like we were kind of left in dark a little bit. Again, I know this is their winter break. They get 2 or 3 weeks off, which it's just very annoying as a player. But I just don't really play Brawl Stars too much because there's so many bugs with the vision bug. All the Buffy brawlers were the best brawlers inside of the game. There was hackers. It just was very, very frustrating as a streamer. And it took a toll on me, and it took a toll on a lot of player base. The numbers probably weren't as, because, again, I spoke to a few people and they were like, how come you're so angry? I know a lot of people are angry at the game, but some people are like, I'm actually enjoying the game, it's a free-to-play player, playing casually. Well, yeah, you don't really see these vision bugs and hackers there, but and the imbalance of Buffies, because if you're kind of just a casual player, you're probably enjoying just destroying everyone when you have a Buffy selected. For the most part, you're probably angry when you face off against Buffy and you don't have one, but you get what I mean. You don't really see the big problems in Brawl Stars unless you're on the more competitive pro side of things. Anyways, so I kind of didn't agree with Adrian here again. It made some great points overall, but in the fact that I guess they kind of did what they could do over the winter period by taking a break. But I think what they should have done is probably got a little bit more feedback in terms of Buffies overall. And you know, again, I don't think I really like play tested any of them. I don't think there was really too much feedback into like the actual core strength of Buffies. So it was a bit, and I know when there's just this really new mechanic, right, where there's a Buffy with gadgets, star powers and hypercharges. It's kind of one of those things where you just have to throw out there and just let the community kind of test for themselves in a way. I mean, they would have done a ton of testing themselves, but to really know the true extent of it, like what they say about brawler balance and new brawlers in general is I understand it, right? Like, they don't want to release, let's just say they release Buffies, right? This new thing, and then everyone's just like, oh, well, they're just terrible. They're really pricey and they're not that good. And then that could just kill Buffies in general. So I think it was guaranteed to happen, basically. You know, I'm not defending them saying that, but it's just guaranteed to happen. A new mechanic comes into the game. Of course, it's going to be strong. It's more of a talking point. And then, you know, in future releases, yeah, they will probably be strong, but surely not as strong as this first ever batch. The same happening with Hypercharges, guys. Of course, you know, later down the line we did balance it, but over the first, I think, 4 months or so, maybe even a little bit longer, Hypercharges was completely broken. Completely. So, I don't know, like, I just kind of expected it, but it's just disappointing, especially when 2025, you know, Brawl Stars just wasn't doing good on YouTube. You know, the play base was still kind of steady, but it was declining, wasn't in a growth period. It just got more and more frustrating for me. Maybe I got too burnt out myself. But yeah, anyways, I just thought, personally, after the winter break, they probably should have been a bit quicker still with these changes. I know they've happened now, but these brawlers, some of them are still really good, like Ems. You know, Mortis isn't as toxic, you know, Shelly, Colt aren't as toxic as before, but it's quite clear that these brawlers were broken, in my opinion. I think after literally 1 day of playing Buffies in the game, I'd made like a first impression list, and I went through like all the brawlers. To begin with, a lot of people and a lot of pros were thinking that, you know, they're overrated. You know, I don't want to call Dre Chow, but he literally said that, you know, Buffies are overrated. And the first day I tried them out, I was like, all of these are broken. I wanted to give them like a bit of a chance. And, you know, not overreact, because, you know, sometimes I can overreact, sometimes I can underrate things, sometimes I can overrate things. That's just going to happen, right? I'm going to be right and wrong about loads of things. I can never be right about everything, even though my personality, I'm like, okay, I need to be right about everything. That's just me. But basically, after 1 day, I made a first impressions list, right? And I went through every brawler, noting down what was strong. I literally highlighted everything. I mean, there's probably like a couple of things I've maybe missed out on. For example, like Mortis, I didn't like realize just how influential his supercharge from his gadget was. But yeah, it was quite clear that all the brawlers are really strong, right? So after a day, I could really sense that. And then it took them 6 weeks, nearly 7 weeks to nerf the Brawl. That's just too much. I know, again, winter break, but they should have been much quicker with these nerfs. They just plain and simple shouldn't have. I know there's loads of things in the background, you know, trying to coincide, you know, bugs and whatever to fit it into one maintenance. I know maintenance hurts the game, etc. They went into that later on in the podcast. But I personally think that was emergency nerf worthy. Like, I know that in the podcast they were talking about, okay, they're not, you know, Rose on release or Larry and Laura release terms are broken, but in terms of just the pure meta breaking, it felt like you could only go those 6 brawlers. Well, if you go to one of those 6 brawlers, you probably win if the opponent doesn't have a Buffy brawler. So to me, that's emergency nerf worthy. Right? I'm just gonna have to throw that out there. So yeah, I felt like they should have been quicker with things, but hopefully in the future, after a bunch of explaining this podcast, I do get more of a feeling that they are going to be much better with balancing and in terms of like a pure schedule. But again, I'll go into that in a little bit. So yeah, the overall talk of balancing seems pretty positive. I'm just hoping that was kind of a one-off and they learn from that. And you know they have a summer break as well, so just making sure that their game is not balanced but just not toxic like it was over that winter period. So this wasn't a question that I asked, but I thought it really like just leaned into my talk about balance changes just then. So somebody asked about 26 minutes into the episode about mid-season balance changes for broken brawlers. So again, like, my question was asked much later on, so they probably would have explained it with my questions if I didn't answer it here. So what they're kind of looking to improve on is that right now there's no set cadence for balance changes, so just kind of do them as and when they kind of can, or just when there's really big problems within the meta. So what they're planning on doing is doing a work in progress balance change soon with the community. So they already do this within a group, and you know, I don't know whether they want, I mean, I think I should be allowed to say it, right? Like, I'm included in this dev team. I think it's pretty obvious right now, well, in this group with the dev team, with some other creators, with some other pros as well. You could probably take a guess who's in there already. I think Bobby's already said he's in this group already. There's a few others as well, I won't name, but if they want to, again, it doesn't really mean too much. But yeah, they do ask, you know, quite a lot of things in terms of like balance. I won't go the ins and outs, right? But you know what it is, like a balance change group chat, right? So they're looking as well at, you know, the givers, kind of this work in progress balance change list to put it out to the community as well. So just like Clash Royale. So I think this would be a really good change. Some people have been asking for that, so we can see what the community thinks, right? So if there's something, I don't know, if Mr. P's set to get another nerf, right? Now the community is not going to be happy about that, right? If Edgar isn't on the buff list again, the community, you know what I mean. So they're also looking at a set schedule as well. So what they'll probably have to do is, again, I know like, the majority of players aren't pros here, like there's literally a couple probably only watching here, but they will try and coincide it, I believe, with monthly finals. So monthly finals happen for 2 weeks out of a month most of the time, so they'll probably wait for those 2 weeks of monthly finals to go, I would anticipate, and then afterwards release some balance changes if they were to do them there, if that makes sense, right? So they could technically do it every month. I mean, what they could do as well is wait for the monthly finals to finish, I don't know, the first week, and then drop balance changes on the Monday, so then the pros have like another week to look at the meta. You know, just trying to like set that into a schedule, because things can go really wrong if they're just throwing out balance changes randomly. You know, that's going to anger a lot of the hardcore community, because the hardcore community are the ones that care about balance changes the most, right? That's why you guys watch my YouTube videos, because I'm the one constantly talking about the meta. So yeah, they're trying to find a better internal system to implement balance changes as well, because right now, with how they implement it, it's kind of done mainly in the maintenance, right? They have to stop the game, stop people from playing to implement these changes. But if they could fix it like server side or some other implication, I don't know how else they could really do it without maintenance. Yeah, but looking into the tech side of things, they have been adding more members into their teams, so hopefully Brawl Stars keeps getting better and better. So yeah, but Buffies is a good way to look at a lot of these misdesigned brawlers as well and fix them. So I really like all of these answers. Third question I asked them was, will Hypercharges also be getting reworks when brawlers receive their Buffies, so like Pearl and Chuck? And the short answer, they just said, well, yeah, that's kind of their reasoning behind Buffies, right? Like they have the cool features, but then it allows them to look at, you know, not poorly designed brawlers, but maybe like some poorly designed mechanics which they thought would work but haven't. You know, they can't be 100% right with everything, but Pearl's Hypercharge being literally one of them. You know, probably when Sam gets their Buffy, they'll probably rework both one of his star powers and one of his gadgets, because they're pretty much both unusable. You know what I mean? So they'll be doing the same with Hypercharges, which I'm excited for. So question 4 and 5 I'll probably just put together here. So I did ask, again, they kind of already answered this in a previous question, but I asked about, you know, any plans doing balance changes every month or emergency nerfs after a new update. They just said, as long as, you know, in the long run that brawlers without Buffies can still compete with brawlers that have Buffies, then that's kind of the balancing that they want to go for, which of course makes sense. They don't want brawler Buffies just to completely dictate the meta, because that would just be really toxic. And question number 5 I asked, with the removal of masteries and records being a huge disappointment, is there any plans to bring it back? I'll dive into that later in this video. And then I asked about hardcore players being neglected. You know, are there any future plans to make the game more grindy? And they said, look out for the next update. So now I'm going to be going through the next update information, which is pretty much confirmed. So now let's go through what will pretty much be in the next update in terms of what we know from this podcast. I'm kind of trying to draw in between the lines here. I don't actually know what's in the next update, by the way. I'm just like you guys. I'm trying to look at this from the podcast. So the first one is this prestige system. So I'll put it on the screen here for you guys. So the prestige system, well, you would have seen it in the thumbnail as well. This reminds me from how they were speaking about it. It's kind of like the old masteries. What they missed with masteries, yeah, they explained a lot about masteries, how a lot of the resources were locked in a place where only the really hardcore players were engaging, or because a lot of the player base had like lower trophies, so they weren't earning a lot of mastery points because it was based on your total Brawler trophy count, right? So they're working on ways to kind of bring back the hype. They did mention as well what they didn't realize were masteries. You think of like YouTube or just in general the social media hype of getting a Brawler's mastery and getting their title. It's really hype, right? With records, it completely killed it. So they're looking on a kind of system. So my kind of prediction here is that I think that these new, I don't know, prestige systems will be tied with Brawler Buffies. Maybe I'm reaching at that, but we don't know what the next Brawler Buffies are going to be. It could be Crow, for example, but maybe if they did this, because it didn't sound like they were just completely deleting records just yet. They never said that in the podcast. They were looking into records in future updates, you know, change the UI, whatever they want to change with it. So to me, this sounds like there'll probably be like a track or just like masteries or just some, I don't know what it could be. This could be an infinite amount of possibilities, but I think it will like coincide with a Buffy's release. So for example, say these new 6 Brawler Buffies, Ems, Colt, Mortis, Shelly, whatever else, I can't remember off the top of my head, but these Brawlers could have this prestige system, and then you could maybe get like cooler cosmetics from there. You know, you could eventually unlock their title through this instead of records. I don't know, but they mentioned it being exciting for content creators. So, you know, as a content creator, I'm very, very excited for this because myself and probably more so other YouTubers that would do these mastery videos like Connor, Corey, a few others as well, a lot of their content's just been removed the entirety of 2025 because of this records update or it just not being that hype in general. So I'm excited for this. The next thing that will be in the next update will be balance changes. More like they're looking to change the way they do it in terms of a different system instead of a maintenance. Normally they have to implement, well, added maintenance to the game to add balance changes. For looking to try and stay away from that, which will be exciting. That means they can be more flexible with balance changes. They're looking at work in progress, which we mentioned already, which will be really hype. I'm excited for that. And they're looking to improve the schedule balance changes in line with esports monthly finals, probably, like I've already mentioned. The claw machine improvements sound really, really good. So claw machine, you get like a lucky pull mechanic, so you can choose the Buffy as they agree it is too random, a bit too random to what they would have wanted. So I don't know, maybe after you pull like 6 times, then your next pull will be like a lucky pull and you get to pick the Brawler Buffy that you want. That's going to be my guess. I don't know, maybe it's like 10 pulls. There's probably a number in between. I reckon it's about 6 or 5. I think that'll be the sweet spot there. So I really like that because I think it is too random for sure. So for example, on my free-to-play account, it took me until I think literally till I had 2 Buffies left to get out the claw machine, and they were both Ems Buffies. And yeah, Ems is the best brawler in the game with her Buffies, so best believe I was getting screwed over by the gacha gods, whatever you want to call it. And then also as well with 79 gem offers appearing once a month, so you can get 1 random Buffy. So this reminds me of just like Hypercharges in a sense. I think they said random. I might have been wrong there, but just still, 79 gem offer. I believe right now in the shop when you try and buy them, they're like 179 gems. So believe you will probably be able to with free-to-play gems. A lot of the gems they said are actually free-to-play gems in the economy. So I think this will be very affordable for the free-to-play player, in my opinion, especially when new Hypercharges aren't really being released yet. I think this is a good change. Power points and coins are getting buffed and throughout the economy. They didn't really mention too much about buffs overall because they think it's in a pretty good spot, but they did mention that they are returning, kind of like Sugar Rush. I think this was in the Halloween event where you hold down a button and then the amount of candy that you earn is doubled for 10 minutes. I think that was how it was, right? So I'm guessing it's like that version but with power points and buffies. So maybe like, I don't know, you're just earning more coins and power points for the next 30 minutes, whatever. And it's like, you know, the game mode, I forgot what they call it, is it Coin Rush as well, where you go into, I think last time it was in Hot Zone, and you pick up coins and then you can earn them. So maybe there's like a juiced up version of that. That would be pretty cool. And then they're saying like they're adding Buffies through mega quests each season, so every month, and then events as well. So technically we're going to be getting at least like 2 free Buffies a month, which is pretty good. So through the 79 gem offer, technically that's kind of free. So through the free track you earn a bunch of gems, just through other avenues as well in Brawl Stars you do earn quite a bit. I don't know the exact number, but you know, that's technically one free. I mean, I didn't really include that in my 2 brawler Buffies is free, but you get a Buffy for free in every Mega Quest each season, so there's your one free one. Also, when they release a new claw machine, so every time there's a new update, there's a new separate claw machine with the new Brawler Buffies, your first pull is a free one. So technically, one every 2 months, you get a free Buffy, and these events will probably give you free Buffies as well. So it sounds like they're really improving Buffies overall. So they're not decreasing the price, but they're increasing the amount of free Buffies. So also a really important one for these competitive players watching. Ranked, it sounds like might be the next update, which is really exciting. I'm kind of at a in-between spot with Ranked. It's definitely way better than the previous iteration of Ranked. It's probably not as good as Power League. It's definitely better than the first edition of Ranked. But again, most of the issues with Ranked for me got to be the hackers and probably like the map pool not reflecting competitive play and a few other things. So the next Ranked update was supposed to be like this one that just went, so the Christmas one. So that sounds like maybe this update, which is coming in a couple of weeks time, could be the Ranked one, which again probably is a good time to drop a Ranked update because the competitive season is about to start up. So kind of linking into what I know about competitive play, they were leaning into like global bans or just more bans in general. They were leaning into a few other changes in esports like new game modes, etc. So I think that it'll really tie into the new BSC season with Ranked. So yeah, I think dropping it in the next update would make logical sense. What they want to do with Ranked, they didn't really say too many things, but one thing I did notice that they said is that they want maximum competitive integrity, even if it means Ranked is less accessible. So I think what they did too much with Ranked, which I guess data side of things, it made sense, right? They saw Power League and they thought, okay, there's not a lot of people, the percentage of players, it's not that much for Power League, so let's just not improve it. That's probably what they were thinking, and then they revamped Ranked. They made it way too casual friendly. So they went from Power League being one of the best competitive game, well, the best competitive game there's ever been, right? And then they went super unserious, right? They went modifiers. They went, I think the reset was harsh. I can't remember. Just so many changes, right? It was a couple of years ago now, and it was terrible. Like, it was good in terms of the amount of viewers that I pulled, and it brought a lot of the casual play base into Ranked. But even they were thinking it was unserious. Like, modifiers, how was that ever going to be serious? So I think now there are a lot of competitive players. Like, I would say, like, the average player right now is just getting better and better every year. I mean, there's still idiots in my ranked games, but there's a lot of good players in Brawl Stars right now, trust me, in comparison to 2 years ago. So I think there is like an itch from a lot of players that want some competitive gameplay. So they're going to focus on competitive gameplay, hopefully in Ranked. That's what Ranked is, right? Like when you play loads of different games like Overwatch, like Marvel Rivals, Valorant, CSGO, whatever. When you play Ranked, you play it for the competitive integrity. You play it so you can train to be the best, essentially, right? It's not meant to be a game for fun. I mean, I find competitive games fun, but you get what I mean? It's just supposed to be on a competitive setting. So let's just keep Ranked competitive, so it can be a place for people to get better in Brawl Stars. If people want to mess about in Brawl Stars and play it for fun, go play ladder, go play map maker, I don't know, go play friendly battles. Ranked is supposed to be, I mean, it is a mobile game at the end of the day, how serious can it be? But I enjoy it, and they're looking to change some UI features to make it more easy to filter, which we should already know about. Okay, so now I know I've waffled way too much now, so I'll try and really, I've got about 3 more pages worth, but I'll really try and shorten these up quickly for you guys. So early on in the podcast, someone asked them about how they plan to fix Buffies. So short answer here is that they're really positive about the direction that Buffies is going. Everything just looks positive. Their average playtime is going up. Their retention, so when players log in daily, it's going up. Their churn, so when players are leaving and don't come back, is going down. So that's a positive sign. So Buffies look good because essentially in games, if you've got nothing to chase for, and especially like a game like Brawl Stars, if you've got nothing to chase, so say if Ranked's boring for you, or if you've got every brawler maxed out, or if your favorite brawler's maxed out, you're more likely to not return and play, right? That's just how Brawl Stars kind of is. So they need to add a new chase item, which I actually fully agree with. I know a lot of people call them greedy cell, whatever, but that also leads to more hype events, right? If they add things that are like a little bit less accessible, I can definitely understand why everyone's angry at them for making them too expensive, but then I'm like, okay, so this kind of makes sense, because think of it like with Hyperchargers. Everyone was angry at Hyperchargers, probably not to the extent of Buffy's price, but then they did so many events and give out so many free Hyperchargers. They will do this with Buffies, right? So just imagine how hype that previous events were. Hopefully we can get that back again. So after kind of hearing their explanation behind everything, you know, myself as a content creator, I know I'm not a free-to-play player, but I felt a lot better, guys. I did feel genuinely a lot better. 2025, I was looking at Brawl Stars in a very negative light, and you know, that gave me a bit of positivity, because I can understand where the hype will generate from, especially if Buffies are as cool as they are. You know, I think they're a good, really good thing. I think they're better than like Hyperchargers, for example. The Brawler reworks are fantastic, so I think they're highly desirable. So yeah, that's basically their explanation of things. They're not going to make it cheaper. You know, but also it took a lot for them, like, creatively to design these little mini characters, etc. So I understand it for now. Let's see if they go through. Let's just see how it looks next update in terms of how many extra Buffies we can get. We spoke about Mega Pig. We already know about Mega Pig. It needs fixing in the future, but it's better than Club League, so for now it's okay. Records they spoke about, but they're not happy with records. They set up Masteries as well. The Masteries event was the most resourceful event, but it brought the least players back. So yeah, it's a little bit of they're trying to find a sweet spot there. So they're not going to add Masteries back, but they will probably. It'd be something very similar, I think, but a little bit more engaging for the lower end of players as well, but also the high end of players. I can definitely imagine what that. It's just going to be a way better version of records, basically. Also, they spoke about the RNG of claw machines. I think Kara's probably dive into this. I literally did a whole massive section about it, but basically they're kind of happy with the PowerPoint resource. You know, I've shown a bunch of graphs. They said that, you know, you get about 31,000 power points, they believe, in 2 months, which is nearly the cost of every single Buffy brawler. I know that doesn't that doesn't weigh into the fact that 2 new brawlers are getting released. That still doesn't add to the equation of, you know, if all your brawlers aren't maxed out right now, you know, you still have to spend resources on those brawlers, but they're kind of happy with where it's at right now. So yeah, I mean, where do I even go from that? And that's pretty much it. They did quite a few other segments as well, but I think that's the main, like, interesting source of information. Hopefully I broke it down good enough for you guys. Again, if you really want to go into the brawler economy, I do recommend watching like a Kairos video or somebody else that would deep dive into the economy. I'm just not too turned into the economy side of things, but I am starting to be, because I'm, you know, playing a lot more on my free-to-play account again. But yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. So what I can say from this time to explain it, I will say, is made me feel a lot more positive about the state of the game and the direction it's going in. I think that Brawl Stars will definitely pop off in 2026, and that could be, I mean, I'm still really angry with how the game is literally at this point in terms of like hackers and the vision bug and a few other things. But once those fixed, you know, I'm very positive, guys. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys next time.